Hello everybody, it has arrived. I have one of the new high-low molds, number GM263, from Creative Paradise and Stephanie and her team, and I'm so excited. And yes, I know this could have been an unboxing. I did not do it as an unboxing because there was another mold in the box that I have been collaborating with her on, and I did not want to share that yet. But this one is out and ready for the public, and I have my hot little hands on one. I'm going to kiln wash this and be ready to slump in it, and I am excited to try Stephanie's light leak method that she shared on her Facebook page. So I am not trying to replace Stephanie O'Toole from Creative Paradise. She's amazing. And so there's a link to her Facebook page. If you're a member of the Facebook page and want to go watch her video, I highly suggest it because it's great. I am going to try to recreate her project on my own using some different glass colors that I want to tinker with. And so, you know, this is not necessarily a tutorial. As I've said before, this is a video diary where I share stuff I'm working on. I'm very excited to use this high-low mold. I'm very excited to try her light leak method. So I'm going to show you my version of it. And if you want to watch the original, make sure you go check out the video notes and find the original. All right, so Stephanie's method for this light leak bowl, which is really cool. Here's some photos of some of her light leaks that were out of the high-low mold. So, you know, this is a really neat technique. I'm looking forward to trying it. And it all starts with this, which is the Patty Gray Dam Mold from CPI GM126. And I just happen to already have one, so that worked out well. Now hers is multiple layers of glass. It ends up being 3 layers, which is why a dam mold works quite well. So I've already got my Patty Gray mold sprayed well with Zip boron nitride. That is done. And Stephanie recommends a disc of papyrus kiln paper in the bottom of the mold to kind of allow air to escape to help with that process. So I've already got a circle of that cut. I don't know if you can use other paper. I know lots of folks like the, I like the papyrus paper. I know a lot of people like Thin Fire, that's what it's called. I don't know if Thin Fire works. I just happen to already use papyrus. It's what Stephanie mentioned, and so that's what I'm going to use. I thought you might just be interested in the process for cutting circles, so I thought I would show you very quickly how I go about doing that. So I've got a piece of papyrus here that I had already cut. I'm folding it in half, roughly, and I've got a little compass here that this one is called the Stanley Fat Max. I think I've got this on my Amazon store, but it allows for large circles. And so I cut a circle here that is 10 inches, and so all I've done is simply, can you see this? Yep, I've got my ruler that's on my cutting grid anyway, and simply measured out 5 inches, which is half of, you know, that's the let's see, the diameter, is that right? I'm gonna screw this up and embarrass myself. The diameter is 10 inches, 5 inches would be the radius, is that right? Anyway, so I have marked out my 5 inches, got my little point here, and this is really pretty simple. All I'm gonna do is set my point on my paper, sketch out, whoops, I just poked through my paper. Well, son of a gun, I say it was simple, but I'm gonna sketch out here my circle. That was rough right at the edge. Of course, this is what happens when you do it on video, and you know me, I don't do a lot of editing. So I'm going to just cut off this extra that I have. I love saving scrap because I'll use that. I'll use this too. And then I've just got scissors, and I'm just going to cut this around, and I'll end up with a 10-inch circle. So I'm going to finish that up, but I just wanted to show you that is how I handle cutting my circles that then go in the bottom of my mold. And yes, there is a seam now. Just taking a guess at how that works. There is a seam where I have cut, or where I folded this in half, and yes, glass can pick that up, but this is going to be the bottom side of an opaque piece, and so I don't really care too much about the seam, but then you can see how my paper drops in there. So now I've got a circle ready for the next project. So I am going to save this, because you can always put little things on there, and get started on cutting my glass. Okay, so now the base layer of Stephanie's Light Leak. I'm using my Kiln notebook, killing it, and I made some notes. So the base layer of glass is 3 layers. Base layer of glass is 10¼ inches, and that's clear. And then your middle piece of glass, and then there's a top layer, are both 9.75. So I'm going to cut some clear circles. I plan on doing a couple of these projects. So while I've got my circle cutter set to the right size, I'm gonna go ahead and knock out a couple of clear circles, and then I'll come back and cut the colored glass that I'm going to use for the middle. So I'm just gonna go ahead and take care of these now. Okay, I am not the best at cutting circles, but I thought I'd stop the camera and just show you how I do this. Now, I use the Silberschnitt circle cutter. I have 11 by 11 piece of glass here that I'm going to cut out. And so what I'm doing is I'm just kind of placing it and getting a visual, that's too close to the edge, of how much space do I have all the way around. And once I feel good about that, I lock that in. And then, whoops, I say I lock it in. Of course, now that I stopped the video, this is not going to work as it's supposed to, and I'm going to end up embarrassing myself. Okay, now it's locked in. I'm going to score my circle. And then you're probably curious, I've had questions before about these steel balls that are in my Morton grid. You can see that one for sure. They just help glass, on a large sheet of glass, they help glass move around a little bit, but I also like to use them then to apply a little bit of pressure as I'm scoring my, as I'm breaking out my score line. So I just flip that over, my score line's underneath, I'm keeping this, you know, an inch or two in, and I'm pushing to start my score, and just kind of rotating around, running that score, and that ball stands up just a little bit to give me enough leverage and height to kind of fully, did I get that all the way around? Yeah, I think I did. To I don't know, run that score a little easier. I'm not sure how else to explain it. And then I'm just going to do a little score here and a little one there, and use my breaking pliers to release this from the glass. There you go. So that's how I get my circles cut. So I have one more clear to do, and then I'm going to do the chosen glass of color that goes in the middle. Okay, so for the sheet of glass in the middle, if you watch Stephanie's Light Leak, she used French vanilla, which I love, and I'm sure I'm going to do that. She was generally using opaque glass and then creating cracks in it. We'll show you that in a bit on how to let light through. I have been coveting this piece of petrified wood for a long time. I think this could look pretty cool, and it fires almost opaque, and so this is a little bit of an experiment, but I'm going to play with it. So now I need to cut my 9.75 inch circle out of petrified wood. I'm going to go ahead and do that right now. All right, now that I've got all my glass cut out, I'm going to clean this up. This has some paint marker on it. I need to get that cleaned up. I need to clean up all of my sheet glass. Yes, I'm wearing a Band-Aid because I cut myself earlier. And yes, it is not Christmas, but it's a Christmas teddy bear because holiday Band-Aids don't matter what time of year. Ouchies don't care. So anyway, I am going to go ahead and get everything cleaned up, and then I'll show you the next step. Okay, hey everybody, it is the next day because I just ran out of steam last night, and so I'm redoing or picking this back up where I left off. And I have to apologize because as I was looking at last night's video, I realized my camera angle was out of whack and you couldn't really see everything I was doing, so that stinks. So sorry about that, but I tried to fix it for tonight. So my next step here, and I'm following again, Stephanie's approach, which is to take my circle, this is the middle circle, if you will, the middle layer. This is a 3-layer piece, and now break it. And so I am going to fold it up here, and I liked her approach, which was to kind of break it not in the center, but off center. And so I'm going to do that same thing. And first, I'm going to, her comment, which I liked, was make your life a little easier by applying some glue. Because then as you put these pieces in, then there's a frit method or a frit process, and the frit would be a little bit easier to move around if the broken pieces are on. You'll see what I mean. So I'm going to use a little bit of glass tack gel and spread that around. I'm just going to use my finger. Now, I said, as I started this video, it's not my intention to detract from what Stephanie did in hers, and her process is great, and so I'm following largely her process, but I'm making some artistic choices here that are a little bit different. One of those is the choice of my glass. So she used a nice opaque French vanilla, which looks really cool. I'm choosing to use this petrified wood instead. And then the other thing is that for her frit choice, she used 2 different colors, and she used fine frit, and I'm using 1 color, and I'm going to use medium frit. So hopefully my results are still good, but just different than hers. All right, here we go. All right, now her point was to, as you're putting these back in, or putting these in your piece, make sure that you are tracking where it goes and put it back in order, if you will, so that it fits back together well. Ooh, I got lots of little pieces here. And so this was cleaned first in order to make sure that I didn't have to try to clean it after the fact and potentially mess up where this glass goes as I'm putting it back in. So I'm going to, so this broke, but not all the way through. That's okay. It's just interesting. So I'm gonna go through the process here of putting this all back together and laying it back in here. Okay, so I said that I was going to use medium frit, but I think I'll use that around the outside. I do have some fine frit, and I see now why, because you don't have a ton of space in these lines, and you want to get frit down in there. So fine is going to do a better job of getting down into those spaces. Now, I'm still trying to use reactive colors because I think that a reaction might be kind of cool. And so if you're familiar with petrified wood, it can be a little unpredictable, but this clear portion here is what I think is called red reactive, and that's where you probably get some of the best reactions if you use a copper bearing glass. So I'm going to choose light turquoise blue, which is a copper bearing color, and I'm going to sprinkle this, and then I've got a soft brush where I'm going to sweep it down into the edges the best that I can, or into the crevices the best that I can. So it's awfully full. Get a smaller vessel here so I have a little bit more control. Okay, so I have that fine frit swept in there, and then Stephanie used frit on the outside edge as well. I'm going to do that. Now, in this case, I've got medium, and I'm using medium turquoise. That was light turquoise. This is medium, and I just have a five pounder of that. So that's part of why I'm deciding to use it, because I've got so much of it. So just filling in a little bit, give a nice blue edge to this piece. Fill in some gap around the mold. Give almost kind of a rim look to the bowl, which I think could look cool. So I suppose you could skip this step. I don't know. I'm following Stephanie's instructions, or her good demo. So I'm not sure what would happen if you skipped this. Suppose you could also use clear if you wanted, but I like the idea of some color. And this rim, this is regular turquoise versus the light in the middle, so I think that this will be a little bit darker overall. Now I'm just going to take my brush and just kind of get it off of most of this glass. I don't mind if some of it's on the glass. I think that actually gives kind of a neat look, particularly if it reacts in certain spots. So like over here, I'm going to kind of leave it alone, to be honest, because it could look kind of cool. Okay, so now the next step, I'm going to move this out of my way. Actually, looks like I'm a little light on this one edge, so let me just take care of that. Yeah, I need a little more over here. You know what, since I got it out, particularly where this reacts, I'm just going to go crazy and sprinkle a little bit on there. Why not? Let's see what happens. Okay, so now there's a third layer of glass that goes on here, so I'm just going to move this out of my way. And it is clear. So, same process. You want to break it again. And you don't want to put the break of the clear over the exact same spots where you had the break in the other one. But I'll show you that in a bit. I just really broke it. Okay, so the idea on that high-low mold is that this part is going to be on the higher edge, because then light will shine through it and kind of hit the table below. So I'm going to put where I broke it here, basically opposite of that. Again, this glass has already been cleaned. And this is not going to lay perfectly flat. Whoops. Because of this frit that's laying out here. And I also don't think you really need to glue this, because you're not going to be adding more frit. Stephanie made a point, maybe you could, like that could be an interesting look. Could also just be a lot going on. And so maybe as I play in the future, you know, other lines of blue frit crisscrossing this could look pretty cool, but that could also be just maybe too much. So again, trying to pay attention to what I'm doing here, because I got to put these back in order. Suddenly I'm getting myself talking. Okay. Now, somebody had asked Stephanie the question in the chat, which I thought was a good question, in terms of why did you even need to smash that top piece? Why not just put the whole sheet down? And maybe you could. Her point was a good one, is that with all these lines and stuff, you might trap a lot of bubbles. And so let's not trap bubbles. So I like that idea. You're not necessarily going for pattern necessarily, but breaking it does allow more air to escape, so that's good. I'm just dusting, getting some of this clear dust powder off the top there. And then as I look, it still seems a little low on this side, so I'm going to add a little bit more frit. Now this mold needs to be propped up on some kiln posts, so I'm going to do that. I'm going to put it in for a full fuse. I'm going to start with the same schedule that Stephanie recommended, which I liked. And I'll post that schedule, as I always do, in the video notes, so you can go look. We'll see how that schedule works for me and my kiln. It worked for Stephanie, so we'll see how it works in mine. The schedule is taking it up to 1460 and holding for 10 minutes. So we'll give that a shot. I'm just I've done 1460 in my kiln. That is a pretty decent full fuse, and so we'll give that a go. Often I kind of default to 1475 for 10 minutes or so for a full fuse, but less heat work is not a bad thing, particularly when you're casting in these molds, I think, because I think it can get hard on the molds and with the zip and stuff. So less might be better in this case. So I'm down with that. All right, I'm gonna stop rambling and I'm gonna get this into the kiln, fire it, see what it looks like when it comes out. Well, I have opened the kiln and disaster. And while this may look really cool, it is not the intended outcome. So I have to fix this now because I am not going to let all of this glass just go to waste. The good news is, from a design standpoint, I think I can work with that real easy. The rest of the plate, I think, is pretty cool. The petrified wood has a really neat effect. The blue turquoise with it, where it got reacted with the red reactive glass that's in the petrified wood, is super cool, and you can see it on the edge over here and around the edges here. So really, really neat effect. Just gigantic explosion of a bubble. So the good news, or the good thing about building relationships with folks is that I called Stephanie at CPI and just said, hey, can you talk me through what may have happened here? So I sent her photos. That's another thing. Always take photos of your projects. Sent her photos and firing schedule, and we talked through it. And ultimately, what we think happened is a lack of volume in that particular spot. And so here's a photo of where there was the crack with some frit, but there wasn't necessarily enough frit to fill the crack, and then nothing on top of it. And so as you get the 6mm rule, even though this was even more glass than just that, but as the glass was trying to kind of level out, what we think happened is it created a little bit of a void and almost suction effect, which then gives this blowout. So we're going to try again. I've taken this out of the mold. I have resprayed my mold again. I'm going to clean this up really well, but I'm going to break this out. It's real thin. I'm going to break out this crater, and then I'm going to fill it with this blue glass, but I'm probably not going to do frit. I actually have some, and it may be this darker blue, but I have some turquoise blue. I'm going to fill it with some broken up pieces of that and try to make sure that I get plenty of volume in there, put it back in for another full fuse, and then we'll see what it looks like when it comes out. So disappointing here, but an opportunity to try to fix it. Stephanie and I talked through it and think I can fix it that way, so I'm going to give it a shot. All right, well, here we are. I don't think that anybody can say I didn't use enough glass. I really packed that in there. I stood it up in order to try to fill that space the best I could. There's obviously still air in there, so that's all going to fuse down in. Hopefully we don't have bubbles, and that's enough glass. So I'm going to stick it back in. I'm going to use basically the same full fuse schedule that I used before, and we'll see how it comes out. Here it is. It turned out well this time. So I had a little bitty scrap of something that had turquoise and a little bit of, what was that? Anyway, it was a reactive glass that was in there, and I knew that when I chopped it up and put it in. I thought it could give a kind of a cool effect. So when you see those dark spots, that's what it is, but it goes with the color scheme. It doesn't bother me at all. So plenty of glass filled that up, and got a nice fire on it. I'm super excited to put this on the mold and slump it and see what it looks like when it comes out. All right, I just opened the kiln. I have not taken this piece out yet, but I'm noticing how clumsily it's slumped in here, how out of balance it is. So I probably need to double check to make sure that my kiln shelf is level, because that looks like a problem, because I'm almost positive I had it perfectly centered on there. The other thing that I realized after it was way too late to try to fix it was that this is not a traditional bowl mold, and so you can't just put it in any which way. If you want the high-low feature to really make sure that you accent a certain area of the glass, you have to think about where is the bottom going to be. This is not what I would have planned. I would have had this turned almost completely differently. I'm sure it's still going to be gorgeous, so I'm about to take it out and we'll take a look, but I just noticed that as soon as I opened it up. I mean, it was probably at about 1,000 degrees last night, and it occurred to me, oh, crud, I just put it on there any willy-nilly way. But with this mold in particular, you got to be mindful about where the bottom is going to be relative to the top. So my bad. Learn from my mistake. Well, I do love this overall. I'm extremely pleased. So, hey, after I started filming this, I noticed there was a little bit of debate and discussion online about whether or not the glass should have been 2mm or 3mm glass. I did 3mm, but I think in hindsight, it sounds like Stephanie did 2mm. 3 layers of 2mm equals 6. And a more traditional thickness. I did 3 layers of 3mm, and yes, I had an issue. I don't think it had anything to do with that. But for those of you who then are wondering, is it possible to do this with regular thickness of glass and come up with a super thick bowl? The answer is yes. Now, some might cold work the edge of this. I am not going to, because I like that round edge and doesn't bother me whatsoever. It's really nice and soft. So I'm gonna, I guess I'm not sure that I'm showing this the right way. I'm studying it, but I'm not thinking about my audience. I am gonna take some pictures here. So the angle is nice, the way it sits. Again, if I had thought about this, I would have put this blue circle, you know, maybe a little bit more this direction, this starburst here up on the wall a little bit further. I just didn't think about when I put it in the bowl, the way the light would play and the placement of the bottom, the base, and so that's my bad. But overall, pleased with this. I'm definitely going to be making some more. I have some 2mm glass, but not a ton of it. But I kind of like the thickness and the heft that I get with the 3mm, so I may continue to keep trying to pursue basically a 9mm piece. Pretty pleased overall. I will post my firing schedules, and you can look for those in the video notes. They're my firing schedules, and it happened to work for me. So, you know, you need to take a look at it. You need to be critical and decide what's going to work for you and for your kiln, but I will share what I've done with this. Very, very pleased. Stephanie and team at Creative Paradise, I love that mold. I love this idea. Thank you for sharing your genius and your creativity. It inspires all of us. I hope you learned something. Please share this video with others to help them learn, and please subscribe to the channel so that you can catch more videos in the future. Bye-bye.